Welcome back to Kids World, your favorite place to learn and have fun. Today we're diving back into the magical world of English spelling with part 2 of our series. If you missed part 1, don't worry, you can catch up later. Ready to become a spelling superstar? Let's go. First up, the famous I before E rule. The rhyme goes, I before E, except after C, or when sounding like I as in neighbor and way. So, words like believe and friend have I before E, but in receive or deceive, the I comes after the C. And for words like neighbor or way where you hear that I sound, it's E then I. But watch out for tricky exceptions like weird, height, and foreign. English loves to keep us on our toes. Next, let's talk plurals. How do we show there's more than one of something? For most words you just add an S, one cat, two cats. Simple. But if a word ends in S, SH, CH, X or Z, you add E's. Think one bus, two buses, or one box, two boxes. This helps us say the word more easily. Now, what about words ending in Y? If a consonant comes before the Y, like in baby, you change the Y to an I and add E's. So, baby becomes babies. One puppy, two puppies. But if a vowel comes before the Y, like in toy, you just add S. One toy, many toys. One key, many keys. Easy peasy. And for words ending in F or fe, like leaf or knife, we often change the F or fe to V's. So, one leaf becomes many leaves, and one knife becomes two knives. But again, there are exceptions. The chief of a tribe is a chief, and you have several chiefs. A roof on a house becomes roofs. You just have to remember these special ones. Time for a quick break. Are you enjoying these spelling tricks? If you are, hit that subscribe button for Kids World so you never miss a new lesson. We have so much more to learn together. Alright, let's keep going with rule number 3. Doubling the final consonant. This sounds tricky, but it's not. If a short word has one vowel and ends with one consonant, you double that last letter before adding an ending like ing or ed. Take the word run. It has one vowel U and one consonant N, so it becomes running. Hop becomes hopped. Sit becomes sitting. But you don't double it if the word already ends in two consonants like jump, it just becomes jumping. Or if it has two vowels before the last consonant, like need, it becomes needing. See, it's all about the pattern. Next up is dropping the silent E. Lots of words end with an E you don't hear, like make or use. When you add an ending that starts with a vowel, like ing or able, you say goodbye to the silent E. So, make becomes making. Use becomes usable. Drive becomes driving. But if the ending starts with a consonant, like fool or less, the E stays. Hope becomes hopeful, and care becomes careless. The E sticks around to help out. There's a little exception though. In a word like changeable, we keep the E to keep the G sounding soft. Let's combine some of these rules when adding ed and ing. We already know that if a word ends in a silent E, we drop it for ing, so bake becomes baking. If a word has that consonant-vowel consonant pattern, we double the last letter. Stop becomes stopped. And what about Y? If it's after a consonant like in cry, you change the Y to an I before adding ed so it becomes cried. But if it's after a vowel, like in play, you just add ed to get played. This leads us right into our next big rule, changing Y to I. As we saw, if a word ends in a consonant plus Y, we change that Y to an I before adding most endings. Happy becomes happier or happiest. Carry becomes carried. But here's the big secret. You never change the Y when adding ing. Carry becomes carrying. The Y stays put. Now, for a special one, words ending in C. To keep the hard K sound when adding an ending like E, I, or Y, we add a K after the C. Have you ever been on a picnic? When you talk about what you were doing, you say you were picnicking with a K. If something makes you panic, it might make you feel panicky. That K is a little helper to protect the sound. Speaking of protecting sounds, some words keep their silent E for another reason. Look at the word notice. To make it noticeable, the E stays. This is to keep the C sounding soft, like an S. Same for manage. It becomes manageable, and the E is there to keep the G soft, like a J. Let's talk about prefixes and suffixes, the building blocks of words. A prefix goes at the beginning of a word, like unre or dis. The rule is super simple. Don't change the spelling of the main word. Happy becomes unhappy. Do becomes redo. Appear becomes disappear. Just stick it on the front. Suffixes go at the end, like ness, lie, or fool. Usually you just add the suffix right on. Quick becomes quickly. Kind becomes kindness. The only time it changes is our old friend, the Y. If the word ends in a consonant plus Y, change the Y to an I first. So happy becomes happiness. Here's a cool sound rule, the soft C and G. When you see the letter C before an E, I or Y, it usually makes an S sound, like in scent, city, or cycle. And when G comes before E, I or Y, it often makes a J sound, like in giant, gem, or gym. It's not a spelling rule, but it helps you read and spell correctly. Phew, that was a lot. But some words are just plain tricky. They don't follow any rules and you just have to memorize them. Words like said, does, gone, there, because, and through. A great tip is to write them down in silly sentences to help you remember. For example, their dog said woof because he was gone through the door. We're almost at the end. Let's touch on hyphens and capital letters. Hyphens are little dashes that connect words, like mother-in-law or well-known. They help make the meaning clear. And remember the basics. Always capitalize names, places, and the first letter of a sentence, and use your punctuation. A period to end a thought, a question mark for a question, and an exclamation mark when you're excited. Finally, the most important rule of all, practice makes perfect. The absolute best way to become a spelling champion is to read lots of books, write your own stories, use flashcards, and play fun word games. The more you use words, the more your brain will remember how they're spelled. You've got this. Thank you so much for joining us today on Kids World. I hope these spelling rules help you feel more confident in your writing. Don't forget to like this video, share it with a friend, and subscribe for more awesome learning adventures. See you next time.